Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our information session this evening. Thank you for joining us because I know that there's two other big lectures on tonight. I'm going to be like 30 minutes, so I'm not going to take too much of your time depending on the question and answer session. If you don't know me, I'm Tanye Nel. I look after the Tokoyama agency within Wright Milners for South Africa, and I'll also share my details at the end. So if there's any extra questions about the product range or about Omnichroma, you're more than welcome to WhatsApp me or email me. I'm going to say this up front because I'm not a clinician and I do not work with the product clinically. But I do have, or Tokoyama has, KOL opinion leaders throughout or around the world that I have the backup of. And if there's anything that I don't know, I can ask them and they will get back to us. At the question and answer session at the end, Dr. Cornay Smith, the Tokoyama key opinion leader for South Africa, will also join us. So if there is any technical questions that I cannot answer, then you're more than welcome to ask her opinion as well, because she has worked a little bit with the composite already. So I'm going to share my screen and then we can get started. Okay, I hope all of you can see my screen. I've got Celeste, our marketing manager, in the background. So if you can't see my screen, she will just give me a heads up. So before we get into the technical stuff, I thought it would be relevant to give you some feedback or just a quick blitz of who Tokoyama is and why we are so excited for the range. It's quite a new range in South Africa, but there is quite a few people using parts of the range. So this photo is actually from the bulk fill material, and the guy is like blown away by the bulk fill material. But I hope at the end of this presentation that you will feel blown away about Omnichroma that we're launching. Well, we launched it on Monday, or the stock came in on Monday, but Omnichroma that we're launching in the South African market. So Tokoyama Dental is an award-winning Japanese manufacturer that is recognized for the quality and reliability of their products. They're 100% committed in innovation in dentistry, and Tokoyama Dental is a subsidiary of Tokoyama Corporation, which production plants and subsidiaries across the globe, and they have more than 5,800 employees. As a result, nearly a century of establishment and knowledge in the chemistry industry, they have transferred that technology and innovations into the dental division to shape the future of dentistry. So they believe firmly in innovation, excellence, and quality. So before we start with Omnichroma, I need to take you to the foundation of the Tokoyama restorative range, because their foundation throughout the restorative range is exactly the same. So it's built on the same breakthrough technology. So although this technology, if you look at their data, is more than 13 years old, it is still so relevant in today's marketplace because the other manufacturers haven't even touched what their composites or the advancement of their composites. So the first thing is the general composites, when they produce their filler particles, they take a block of their filler material, whether it's barium glass and whatever it is, and they grind it. When they grind it, you can control the size of the filler, but you cannot control the shape of the filler. So Tokoyama Dental uses the Sol Gel method to manufacture their spherical, perfectly round filler particles. And if they decide tomorrow to make triangles, they can do it because they literally grow their filler particles from the core into the shape and size that they have established that increases the handling, the strength, and the aesthetic of the material. The second breakthrough, and I took this out of an article on the web, the second breakthrough of their composite or their composite range is the RAP accelerated curing. So it's a rapid accelerated polymerization of their product. So that just means that you have extended working times up to 90 seconds with their material, so you won't get premature curing. And if you're doing a lot of aesthetic work, then this helps you a lot with taking your time sculpting, layering, especially with the Estelite range where you would restore multi-layered teeth. It also is a 10-second cure. In saying that, in the clinical data, it's very dependent on your curing light. So if your curing light, which all the new LED curing lights, they all have an output of 1,200 milliwatt on average, and that gives you a 10-second curing time for your 2mm layering on your composites, and then on their bulk fill, it's a 4 to 5mm increment. So now we get to the revolutionary product of OmniChroma. So they called it smart technology, smart chromatic technology. One shade of composite for all the whites, 1,000 shades of whites. There is a two-part to the system, so don't get blown away that it's only one syringe. One syringe, which is shadeless, but it also has a blocker, which you'll use in certain instances or cases. But they have found with feedback from general dentists that 80 to 90% of cases can be treated with OmniChroma. So we need to understand color and the working of this composite, because it's completely different to any other composite that we know that's currently on the marketplace. So if you look at what is color, color is nothing more than wavelengths of light that reaches your eye. From violet, which is the smallest wavelength, to red, which is the largest, these wavelengths make up a visible spectrum of color that we can see. White obviously contains all the colors. So they have found that the human tooth falls exactly in the red and yellow color space. So if we look at the A1 range, it's a reddish brown. If we look at B shade, it's reddish yellow. C shade is gray shade. And D shade is reddish gray. So there's two types of color producing phenomenons, and that is structural color and chemical color. Now, chemical color is the most common color. They take a dye or pigment and you dye it the color you want it. So that is how our composite currently in the marketplace work. You have an A1 dye, they put it into the composite, and that is the A1. It reflects and it links up with the Vita Shade Guide. Structural color, molecules of the material reflect particular wavelengths and absorbs and reflects, and that gives you a natural color. So in nature, we have a lot of examples of structural color, and on the chemical side, there's lots of examples of structural color, and we'll discuss them quickly. So like I said, typical composites today rely on chemical color, added dyes and pigments. They have specific shades for specific teeth. Some have limited shade matching abilities. So light comes in when you open your mouth, hits the composite, that doesn't affect the composite. We see the color that it was dyed to, or where they've added pigments or dye. The second type, structural color, the structure of the material amplifies or weakens different wavelengths, and then structural color is red. So if we look at the morpho butterfly, that appears blue. It's not actually blue because the way the microscopic structure of the wings interact with the wavelengths of light. Same with a soap bubble. It depends on the thickness of the bubble, which color it reflects. So if it's a thin layer, it's going to reflect the magenta color. If it's a thicker layer, then it's going to reflect more of a blue color. Back of a CD, the engraving on the back of a CD. you can see the wavelengths interacting with the engravings and reflecting different colors. Same with the feathers of a peacock. And now everyone is saying their composite has a chameleon effect. This is now truly true with omnichroma because the chameleon uses structural color to change color as well. So the smart technology, it goes back to the fillers that I told you about in the beginning. Because they are spherical round, that is your structure that the wavelength hits, and then it filters out. So omnichroma is the first to use structural color in composite dentistry as the main color mechanism. No dyes and no pigments. Filters themselves generate the red and the yellow structural color, which combines with the surrounding tooth color. So in the beginning, I said 80 to 90% of clinical situations, you'll be able to use omnichroma. So if you place omnichroma and there's not enough tooth structure for it to reflect the rest of the color of the tooth, then you would use the blocker to help build a wall or build walls so that when the light hits and it filters out the red and the yellow wavelength, that it has something, the surrounding tissue or the surrounding of the tooth to reflect back to your eyes. If you look at the fillers, they're all silica zirconia fillers, so it's a strong composite. It's still built, like I said, on the foundation of the rest of the Tokoyama range and the Estelite composite that's very, very popular and around the world, and according to the Dental Advisor, one of the best in its class. You're looking at 260 nanometer in particle size, and that is the size that they have found works the best to enhance the composite handling, aesthetic, polishability, and also wear. Omnichroma is one of the composite where you get the least wear because of the strength. So what does omnichroma mean to you? So simplifies your inventory, because you typically have two syringes in your cupboard. You have the omnichroma and you have the blocker. So it's reduction of composite shades. It's a reduction of unused composite shades. So your C's and your A4 colors, you don't use as often as your A2 and your A3 colors. And you're never short of an odd shade when the patient walks in. So now go through the features. It's unprecedented shade matching. Shade matches before and after bleaching. Now this is a huge advantage to me, and that's why I said there at the bottom, it's a timeless composite. So the advantage that I see in this composite is timeless. So every time the patient opens their mouth, new light falls onto the composite, and it will keep on reflecting the surrounding tooth structure. So as you know, as we age, the teeth get more yellow or they get darker. So the filling will move with the teeth. If the patient decides in a year's time that they want to whiten their teeth, it will move with the teeth and it will whiten with the teeth. And I'll show you a study that was done in late 2019 where they've actually tested whether this is true or not. And because it is constantly reflecting the tooth structure around it, it moves, the filling color moves with the tooth. High polishability, obviously inherited from the Estelite side, and it's because of the particle or the filler particles. It's got excellent chemical properties of Estelite same. At the end of my presentation, if there's anyone that wants extra detail, like what is the strength, what is the polymerization shrinkage, what is the flexural strength, I've got that information for you if you want the extra information. So indications where we would use omnichroma is anterior and posterior restorations, direct bonded composite veneers, diastema closure, and then obviously porcelain repair. Porcelain repair, you'll obviously use a blocker if there's metal shining through. So this is a nice tip that I picked up from Dr. Corné Smith. It's the Dental Advisor feedback from the clinicians that tested the product. So 36 consultants used it and 757 times in total. And these are their comments. So it's your colleagues' comments. So the transition from opaque white to two-shade blending of the curing is amazing. I'll show you that. That is when you place the composite omnichroma, it is more opaque so you can see where you've placed it. Once you cure the composite, it just blends into the two structures. So that is what that opaque white means. Creamy consistency, easy to pack, 90% of the time perfect shade match. This concept could be a real game changer for everyday dental restorations. And it's not well suited, they say, it's not well suited for extreme white bleaching shades. So that maybe you'll use a Estelite bleach white or a snow white in those indications because the color of omnichroma is translucent. Okay, smart chromatic technology, supra nano fillers, and then it just goes to flexural strength, compressive strength. But I think this is a nice feedback from independent practices. So the omnichroma blocker, the blocker, like I said, is indicated for if you have severe tooth, if you don't have a lot of tooth structure to work with and the omnichroma is not able to pull color from the existing tooth structure. And then if you're using it in a class 3 or a class 5, where you have the background of the oral cavity shining through, if you only use omnichroma, it's going to pick up the black oral cavity. So you will have to have a palatal shell with the blocker just to block out the oral cavity. Obviously, masking any stains. So if there's any stains on the floor or from amalgam in your restoration, the omnichroma will mimic it. So you have to block that out for the omnichroma not to mimic it. Important to remember, if you look at the first block there, you can see the color of omnichroma. It's like a translucent. The second picture is the color of the blocker. So it's between, they say between an A1 and an A3. So I would say typically it's an A2. Important to note when you use the omnichroma blocker is they say a film or a thickness of 0.5 to 1 mil. If you pack it more than that, the omnichroma will take over the color of the blocker and not the two structure that's left. So we had a thing like this with another company where they have a pink opaque. And when it first came out, people were packing the pink opaque too thick and the restorations appeared pink, light pink. And the same thing will happen with this blocker if you put it on too thick or if you layer it too thick. This is that opaque before you place it. That's what they meant. So if you look at the omnichroma in those situations, they're more opaque for you better to see the product where you've placed it. And after curing, it just blends seamlessly. So in a class 3 situation, very, very important. It's actually with any composite, but especially with Tokoyama because the spherical fillers are round and it reflects light. It doesn't scatter light. Because if light comes in and it hits an irregular particle, light can scatter. Light comes into the omnichroma composite range, hits the particles, and it reflects in an orderly manner out. If you don't bevel and do chamfers, then you will see a transition line between the tooth and the composite. Now, Dr. Cornay Smith does a very nice online hands-on session where she shows exactly how to bevel nicely, how to extend it onto the facial surface. If you do that, you have better retention and you have a better aesthetic outcome. If you take 2 pieces of wood and you stick them together, you will see the glue line. If you have 2 pieces of wood and you gradually slide them into each other, you won't see the line easily. So first you'll do your preparation, you'll bevel. You'll apply your blocker where the oral cavity will shine through, 0.5 to 1 mil in thickness, and then you'll put your omnichroma on top. you finish, and you polish. Same with the posterior teeth. We discussed any discoloration of the floor of your box, you're going to have to use the Omnichroma. If you have a tooth where you have a MOD, or you have areas where there's a lot, you can see lingually, a lot of oral cavity is going to shine through, or the tongue or the lip side, it's a dark area, you're going to use your blocker to build up your wall, or you're going to convert to a class 1, and then you're going to fill with your Omnichroma from there. So again, your chamfers, your prepping, edge bond, blocker, and Omnichroma on top. If you have enough tooth structure and the tooth has no discolorations, then you just use your Omnichroma. So these clinical situation is for that between 90 and 100%, that 10% where you're going to use the blocker. And the rest, class 5 is where you're surrounded with tooth structure, you will just use the Omnichroma. I'm just showing you guys that there is a blocker and where you need to use it. So if you look at clinical situations, so the doctor, this is a key opinion leader from Tokoyama. He's done a class 5 here. He said he's beveled to make that transition line better, and he's just used Omnichroma directly. If you look here, another class 5, if you have a class 5 with a very deep V, and the dentine is much darker than the rest or the crown of the tooth, you can use blocker there, or opaque, because if you have a very dark yellowish dentine and you place the Omnichroma onto that, then that Omnichroma is going to reflect or mimic that darker yellowish color, and that you will have a definite color change between the crown and that area. So it's a good idea in those clinical situations where you can use a little bit of blocker just to soften that hard yellow color. Then class 2, yeah, I would use blocker because you've got 2 teeth that has got a missing wall, blocker on the side, and then Omnichroma from top to bottom. Amalgam, if there was a stain when you removed the amalgam, then you can use a little bit of blocker. If there's no stain, you would just use the Omnichroma. In this situation, you will have to use the blocker because of the oral cavity. So you first build up your palatal shelf or palatal wall, and then you'll use the Omnichroma on top. So I've mentioned a lot of it, but I just want to recap in areas where I won't suggest Omnichroma. So first one is severely broken down tooth. So if you look at the top picture there, where you've got a severely broken down anterior tooth, the Omnichroma still needs to pull the tooth color or the surrounding tooth color. So if you're going to put blocker there, it's going to pull the color of the blocker. So for that instance, I'd rather use a layering composite or a different composite. Then a multi-layered tooth. If you have a nice enamel halo at the bottom, if you put just Omnichroma, it doesn't mimic the exact tooth next door. It mimics the color that you attach it to. So in those cases, I would use something like the Estelite, which is the award-winning Tokoyama general composite, where you'll have a palatal shelf, you'll have a dentine shade, and you'll put a clear enamel over that. Then very important, beveling and chamfering, like we discussed, just for that transition line. And then severely broken teeth. If you look at that molar tooth, it's discolored and it's got a lot of missing walls. So if you just put Omnichroma into that situation, the tooth color, it's not going to match the rest of the tooth color. It's going to pick up the stain, and you've got oral colors that's going to come through there. This is a nice clinical evaluation. So there are 25 doctors, and they did 841 cases, and they have found that 92% rated good or excellent for total average among all the shade classes. And that is where we say 80 to 90% of clinical cases you can treat with Omnichroma. Then this is that article that I spoke about. It's from Open Access Journal in Dental Science, and they have found the conclusion was when bleached, the shade of the filling conformed to the shade of the tooth in a manner that cannot be detected clinically. Omnichroma changed to a lighter shade when the enamel or with the enamel that responded to bleaching and did not show change on the enamel remained under the same shade. So as you bleach, the Omnichroma will move with the tooth. I've put this together just to show you the entire restorative Tokoyama range, because some of you know some of the products, but you might not know that there's an entire range. And the nice thing about having a total solution restorative range is, except now for Omnichroma, which is in his own little bubble, but if you look at the flowable, the universal flow, if you use Estelite with the universal flow, it's the same company, same technology, same shades. Posterior, the bulk fill is very popular. And then new is the Asteria composite right at the top. That's the premium composite, body composite. So all the companies are now moving towards lesser shades. They're moving to body shades or universal shades to lessen. Or your Asteria falls into that category. And then Omnichroma obviously is in a league of its own. They've got brushes, the bond is amazing, especially for zirconia bonding. I think it's the strongest bond on the market. Thank you. There's my WhatsApp number, my email address. So you guys are more than welcome to contact me anytime if you want more info or if I can help with anything. And then I'm going to quickly run through these. These are the compressive strength. You can see it's in line with the top composites, about 430 megapascal compressive strength. If you look at the flexural strength, it's in line with most of your composite that's currently on the marketplace or in the marketplace. Very little wear. There it outshines the current composites. Okay, low polymerization shrinkage, so less pulling, less C factor. And then also the staining important. So it's in line with a lot of the current composites in the market. Okay. Let's go to the questions. Dr. Cornay Smith, are you on already? Snell's law of diffraction angle incidence passing between two different. Doctor, if you can come on stage, can you come on stage for us? Pink Floyd album. Any other question? Thank you for joining us for this colorful info session. There we go. Welcome, Dr. Smith.
Let me just get some light on the subject. Thank you, Tanya.
Pleasure. Any questions about the product
Would you like for me to add anything?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So first, I just want to apologize. My internet connection is not great. I just moved into a new place, and my internet connection has not been set up yet, so I'm literally connecting via my phone. Okay. Am I still there? Okay, so I'm just going to chat without my camera. Is that okay, Tanya?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. We can hear better.
Great. I firstly just want to say that it's amazing that that we have such great product knowledge from our dental companies. So thank you very much, Tanya, for that amazing lecture. It was really, really good. I really appreciated that.
Pleasure.
If I can give some clinical feedback on the product, I think it's one of those products that's probably going to change dentistry forever. We are going to see that we'll see a couple of people trying to replicate Omnichroma, and I think we're already seeing that. But this is going to change things forever. My first-hand experience with the product is that it's really amazing if you know how to apply it. It's not for a big restoration, like Tanya said. It's extremely important to not try and do a massive class 4 with the restoration. What you will find is you will get a really white restoration. You won't get it's not going to be gray. It's going to be super white. So because the Omnichroma picks up whatever's around it, it picks up its own color properties, which is just nothing. There's just white light coming through. So don't try and use it in large areas, because you are going to run into a problem of having too white restoration. I do, however, think that if you use it, especially in a class 5, it's amazing. You can get blending like you can't get with any other product. And if you're very careful with the way that you prepare your teeth, like Tanya said, that beveling, having an infinity bevel with all of Takayama's products is extremely important, so that you don't really see a transition line, because it picks up the underlying tooth structure. So that's my main, that's one of the biggest clinical tips that I can give, is to bevel properly. And it doesn't mean that you have to drill away tooth structure. It just means that you take a little disc and you polish the actual tooth so that you get an infinity bevel. And if you do that, you will get a beautiful transition, and you won't even see that you have a restoration on the tooth. I also think that the application on the posterior teeth is important to note that you still need to layer your composites. You can't pack this like a bulk full. Today, I did a little bit of just a trial to see how it would work if I use it over a bulk composite. So I used it with the Takayama bulk, and it still worked very well. So you can use it on top of a bulk. Again, knowing that whatever that shade is going to give you, you will see that coming through on your Omnichroma. But it is possible to put it over a bulk if you want to do it that way. I know a lot of us prefer using a bulk flow. So you don't always have to use the blocker in something like a little class 2, a very, very small class 2. You can still use your bulk flow, and you can just put Omnichroma over it, and it works very, very, very well. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in South Africa with this product. But yes, I think that there's a lot that we can still learn, and it's going to be amazing to see how you guys are going to implement this in your practices.
Yeah, feel free to share your pictures and cases with us, so we can all learn together. What adhesive do you recommend, Dr. Cornay-Smith?
I fell in love with the Takayama, with what is it called? The pink and the green bottle.
Yeah, Polfic Universal Bond. Yeah, that's very popular bond.
I absolutely fell in love with that bond. It's amazing that you don't have to light cure it. It's also got properties where you actually desensitizing the tooth, so you don't have to worry about post-operative sensitivity. You actually save a little bit of time by not light curing as well. And you don't have to worry if you go into any areas where you're relying very heavily on dentine bonding. This bonding agent beats any other bonding agent on dentine bonding, which is quite interesting. So this is definitely my bond of choice. So I've moved over completely to using Pulfig bond. So that's what I would suggest.
It's also very, very good for zirconia crowns. So we're using like a resin cement, use the bond inside the zirconia crown and onto the tooth. Like Dr. Smith said, it's got a 3D SR monomer in that desensitizes the tooth or the dentine side, but it's got every single monomer you can think of, metal, zirconia, porcelain, where you put it inside the crown, cement in the middle, and that bond strength, I think it's 390 megapascal bonding strength or some very, very good bond. Is very popular for zirconia bonding as well. Also, if you have an access hole and you've done an implant case where you've done your access hole through a zirconia crown, the guys are using the bond within that access hole and then placing their composite. Then the composite doesn't pop out all the time.
Also for endo, if you're placing, if you're doing a lot of endo, it's an amazing bond to use because you don't necessarily know how much light you can get through if you want to place a deeper build-up or if you're placing a little post. So it's really good for that as well.
Yes. Then I want to say the stock did come in on Monday. It's flying off the shelf. I'm not saying this because I'm a salesperson, but I think there's 65 units left of the Omnichroma, and then the next shipment will arrive the end of the month again. So if you order and it goes on back order, then please just be patient. We didn't think it's going to move this fast, but if you keep it on back order, the next shipment is due the end of the month. How is the long-term wear resistance of the material? Any research available on this as well? I can gladly send that on to you. I've got some research on that. Dr. Hutton, if you can contact me on WhatsApp, I can send it on to you. Thank you for amazing presentation. Looking forward to using the product. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. 38 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Corné Smith, and taking the time. We're very excited, and I can't wait to get some photos and feedback from the delegates that joined us tonight. Good night, everyone.
Thanks,